Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my monologues. So I just want to say a big thank you, and I do this from time to time, as you know, for everyone who's donated to keep the channel going. We are demonetized and we've been struck off from YouTube 4 different times. And I just keep going because I think the messages are important, despite perhaps some of the parody versions of this show that other people have put up, which is very flattering, actually, if someone's got the time and energy to do a sort of, I suppose, a satirical version of me. Anyway, so big thank you to everybody who has donated and made the show possible. I really appreciate it. And we've got some great guests coming up on the show for you as well. Talking of guests, I had a guest on a couple of times, an author who was looking into Tartaria, and he wrote the book Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids. You may remember the interview. His name's Guy Anderson. Well, he's now got an audio version, an audio book, I should say, of this, of his work, and he's working on another book about clones and things. And you may be interested in getting a free copy of the audio book. He's got, I think, 13. And if you get in touch with him, the email will be below. He'll explain how it all works and what you need to do to get it. I think you have to download the Audible app or something along those lines. And as part of the trial, you get a free version of his book to listen to. And you can't go wrong with that, can you? Anyway, today's monologue is really about this bit of paper that was thrust through my door. All the people along my street down here on the south coast where I live have presumably had one, because it's something that's happening, but not just here. I think it's happening up and down the country, and it's all part of the big plan to control people, or control persons, I suppose one should say. So what I'm going to say in this is I thought I'd read through this and see what you make of it. And you may know something about this yourselves, or you may not have heard about it. So this is a letter that goes to all the people in the street. And he says, I'm writing to you to see if you're aware that the government is proposing to make sweeping changes to local and regional government in our area. This is there is a public consultation, but it only runs until the end of March. Why, he says, given the momentous scope of these changes, are they being rushed through with such haste, as most of these things are these days? You might also have thought that the government didn't want the population as a whole to know what they're planning and have time to respond, and I hope this isn't the case, he says. I should say this is by a gentleman called Chris Hare, who's also been on the show, and I've got his book on the back here about Hare Belloc, if you're interested. Look up Chris Hare. Anyway, he goes on, he says, while there might well be merit in a devolved authority for the whole of Sussex, which is where I am, surely we should expect that its members are directly elected by us, the people of Sussex. However, under these proposals, supported by the two existing county councils of East and West Sussex, the only person who will be elected is an all-powerful mayor. There will only be 6 other members of the new authority who will be appointed and not directly elected. So this is, and I guess this mayor will be, you'll have to select presumably from a number of candidates. So I don't know whether any of the people of the counties will be able to be nominated to be a mayor. And do we ever trust these processes? I don't know. The dissolved assemblies in London, Wales, Northern Ireland have directly elected members. So why should the Sussex devolved authority be so lacking in democratic accountability? It's a good question. Do we even want an elected mayor for the whole of Sussex? Is it a wise idea to put so much power and such a large budget into the hands of one person? Note the word person there, of course. Is it not best to disperse power, giving a broad range of elected members the ability to scrutinise the decisions of the executive? There is another aspect to these proposals not mentioned in the consultation, the plan to abolish existing local councils and merge them together in unwieldy unitary authorities. It's been suggested that Brighton and Hove, Ada and Worthing could all be merged into one new council. Do we want this? Will there be a consultation on this too? We have not been told, he says. For 8 years, from 1989 to 1997, I was a West Sussex County Councillor. I even stood as a parliamentary candidate in the 1997 general election in Worthing West. While time has passed, my interest in our county and our local government has remained. I feel obliged to make a protest to alert residents about the proposals, as I feel there is something rather underhand about the methods being used to push through such fundamental changes. And the last bit, he says, this year's county council elections have been cancelled on the basis that the authorities will cease to exist next year. Doesn't that rather suggest that a decision on future arrangements has already been made? Which I think that rather does. And then he gives a link to go to the consultations, and I'll put that in the description, of course. And now this is going on in this county, but this is a nationwide thing as I understand it. And if you have any thoughts on that, I'd be very interested to know what you think. So this would be a bit like, you know, the London mayor governing all of London, and we will have these county mayors who will govern the counties, large swathes, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people under the control of one individual making a blanket decision for those people, and the amount of housing that can go in and the various other projects. We've already seen that the government are in the process of putting through a bill in which farmland, and presumably other land as well, can be compulsory purchased if the government decide that they have another use for it, whether that be a solar farm or a wind turbine farm, or they want to put up some houses, or they just want to stop food being grown. The key to all of this, in my mind, is that every time I read one of these things, you know, this is all about legislation. It's all about people trying to govern us. And it comes back down to who are you and what are you? And if you understand who you really are, not the legal fiction attached to a label that's in a paper world, in a corporate world, if you are a genuine, real man or woman, a soul in a body, if you are not a person, just a concept registered at the Crown Corporation, then what we need to do is to take off that persona and stop playing in their game, get away from the monopoly board, move away, take ourselves out of that jurisdiction, is what it seems to me. And the more people that do that, and of course people are doing it all the time now with their council tax and with the various sort of offences that we've caused by driving a little too fast than what somebody else deemed was the appropriate speed on roads, or parked our car where somebody else deemed that we are not allowed to do that because somebody else has painted some paint on the roads. Now, if we're all using common sense, if we're all using critical thinking, if we're all using our judgment to be kind to one another, then we're all going to get on. And there's always going to be wrong uns who will abuse the system. But if at the end of the day we love thy neighbour, if we cause no harm and we create no loss and we cause no injury, then I can't see that any crime has been committed. We do need to take ourselves out of this. And so while they can have their own system and do whatever they damn well like in their corporate world, the more of us that say, well, that's just, you know, dead entities playing about on a monopoly board. Let us move ourselves out of that. Let us go to the Attorney General and say, look, I know who I am, actually. Thank you very much. I'm not this. And I'm just letting you know that I have rescinded my being a person, and that I am actually of the people and completely out of your jurisdiction. Thank you very much. Just letting you know. So now you do know, I've told you, my authority comes from a much higher sphere, not a man-made authority in which you need libraries of books with all this legislation and acts and statutes, which is all made up and not part of me. So these people will do their thing. It'll happen anyway. I've just been told that in where I live, we're getting the 20-mile-an-hour nonsense. So the more people that get out of that jurisdiction and say, actually, you know, that's just that's a fake jurisdiction, I'm not part of it, the better, in my humble opinion. And I know that some people will just have no concept of what I'm talking about, or will think that I'm just talking out of my bottom, and they're entitled everywhere to think about their own, you know, their own thoughts. Anyway, until next time, thank you for watching. Goodbye.